Hello, everyone, and welcome to CXpert Share. I am Brandon Knight. Thank you for joining me this week for CXpert Share, where we have real experts talk about real subjects. And speaking of real experts, none other than the guy that I joke with. I say who literally wrote the book. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But Aarde, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, Brandon, thanks for having me. Looking forward to this conversation. Excited.
Awesome. Why don't we start off before we get into our topic? Start off with a little bit about yourself and your organization. Kind of what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am the CEO founder of ClarityCX. ClarityCX is a free consulting agency. We help with everything to do with customer experience, technology, and BPOs. Our primary focus is understanding what your current technology ecosystem and environment is, and then helping you through the down selection of suppliers, RFP management, project management, and then all the way to implementation and then post go live.
So
We do.
I appreciate that you're addressing business outcomes, but today's topic I do want to talk about because it is something that kind of made me a little skittish even when I wanted to make a technology change or a product change, and that is change management. I think too often, both conceptually and practically, change management is not addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And to give a little background, I've been in the contact center space for about 20 years. Brandon, much like you, I was a frontline team member taking calls, chats, emails, worked
Mhm.
my way up to supervisor, manager, director, VP, and then moved to other companies and kind of did the same, moving around. And
Right.
it gave me an interesting view into change management. As an agent, I felt that things were always being pushed on me. So I didn't
Mhm.
really have the buy-in until I started to use it, until I started to adopt it. And that adoption, at least for me as the end user taking the phone calls, chats, and emails, it took a while because changing a system, changing the buttons, changing what it looks like, coming into work, that change management, if it's not done properly, it can feel like a bunch of tiny changes to how I need to operate my job and do the best thing I possibly can do for the business that I work for. And then as I progressed into leadership, I found that it was hard to, from a change management standpoint, be a champion for that change. I had to first get my own buy-in, and then as a leader get my team's buy-in. So that gave me a different perspective. And then fast forward to, as senior leadership, as a senior director, as a VP, I was really the champion in making the decisions on when the change would happen and who would it affect and when. And I think from a definition standpoint, one of the things you have to think about before really truly defining change management is, what is the ecosystem that you live in today? Are the employees that you're working with, are they accustomed to change? Are you in a company that changes frequently? Like they change the system every year, every couple months. They change not only CX tools, but maybe the HR tool or how people clock in and clock out or any of these other tools. If you're changing things frequently and your employees are okay with that, change management is going to be a pretty light task. But if you work for maybe an industry where change isn't as common, so maybe like the banking industry or fintech or healthcare,
Mhm.
those tools, those like EMR, EHR, those tools never change. Like
Right.
you could have employees change more frequently than the tools themselves, and if you swap one of
That's
those
true.
things out, whew, that can be like not only pulling teeth, but you're literally uprooting how people have done 20 or 30 years worth of their work
Right.
in a single day or in a month. So you have to take that approach, that change management approach, and look at it in a different way. So I would define it as truly understanding from a project sense what's needed, but then also from an employee buy-in standpoint, the actual users of the product, they're either going to be champions or they're going to be challengers. So do you want them to all be champions of the product and be on board and thumbs up, or are you okay with them being challengers to the change? And if so, that's going to be a harder uphill battle.
Okay. Big part of my challenge was, how do I get other people in the organization, C-level people, and as well as laterally, how do I get other people in the organization to understand the importance of making a change? Because let's face it, while we've evolved some, there's still a lot of businesses that consider the contact center a cost center. They want to do it as cheap as possible, right? They want to pay the people as cheap as possible. You know what I'm saying? So with your experience, how could you help someone like me, a leader who has to convince other people in the organization that this change needs to happen?
Yeah. Oh, great question. And I'm going to piggyback off of that. I love this analogy. It's the contact center is always the last person to the free buffet, the all you can eat.
That's
When
a
it
good
comes
one.
to budget, sales and marketing, they're going to get it first. You're going to get all of the operational teams, the IT teams, HR, like that. That's the lifeblood of the organization. And then,
Mhm.
oh wait, we forgot to save money for the customer service team or the contact center, or whatever you want to call your support team. And oftentimes, they're forgotten, and that just makes it a little bit harder to justify the budget or the spend. And I've got some tips and tricks for that. But before I go there, I want to talk a little bit about horizontal and vertical champions. So whenever there's a need for a change, whether it's a new technology, a new process, whatever it is, you really want to get your vertical buy-in as well. So if let's say you're a senior manager and you want to institute a change, you need to get the people above you, maybe all the way up to the C levels, and below you on board with your idea. You kind of have to go on an internal sales pitch. Like, this is the plan, this is what I'm thinking. I need to do some more research. I want you guys above me and below me to be involved in that research, and I want to report back to you. That would be the vertical. And then you also need to think horizontally. So take that same senior manager. Let's say they're a senior manager of a contact center for customer service. Some of these changes might affect downstream processes or upstream processes. Maybe sales and marketing might be affected in a positive way or a negative way.
Mhm.
Maybe your product development team, if you're in tech support, may be affected, or if you're e-commerce, you're providing a feedback loop to the product team, uh, building shoes, or the manufacturing team or warehousing teams. So these are all your horizontal stakeholders that you need to gain trust and buy-in. And they don't need to be in every meeting. They don't need to know the technical things because their specialty isn't customer service or contact center. But they
Mhm.
do need to know that you're interested in making a change, and that change may affect them in a positive or negative way. And you want their buy-in. You want it to be on their roadmap. You want them to be a champion in that change. So always think of it as you can't have only one. You can't make change management happen by only having vertical and not horizontal, and vice
Right.
versa. You can't have only horizontal and not vertical. Going back to the budget, we hit this a lot with our customers. We do anywhere from 20 to 100 technology deployments in a year. So we
Mhm.
see it all. We see large organizations, small organizations. We see them already have a procurement team. We see them with fully rolled out budgets for the next 3 years, and you got to fit it into a timeline, all the way to you just got to ask the COO or the CEO for some budget, and they're going to either approve it or not approve it. So that's the
Right.
kind of small example. The way that we normally see it sold is there's two different types of ROI. There's the objective ROI, which is the current tool cost X dollars, the new tool cost X dollars.
Right.
it's going to be more or less. Hopefully, it's budget neutral, or hopefully you're going to save some money. That's the objective. It's very, very clear. Budget is X amount of dollars. You're either below it or above it or right at it. And then there's the subjective budget, which is if we implement this, we're going to decrease our spend on headcount. We're going to increase our number of sales. We're going to decrease the need for product or the warehouse to do some sort of task that costs money. If you can articulate that in a proper way and put some numbers to it,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be able to start to sell on a subjective budget. But yeah, I think budget is important, and it's always important to take a step back, look at that before you really pitch it to the rest of the team.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think that that speaks a lot to what most people in management and leadership are tasked with, right? Trying to figure that out. Now, I want to do this appropriately, but there's another group that I need you to speak directly to. All right, and I will tell you. I will tell you. I don't have to explain it to you because you've been in this space. But there's a dynamic that happens between the IT team and the operational people in the contact center space, and it may not be as prevalent now, but I know in a lot of places, if you have an IT team, they're not just the IT team. They're typically certified in the technology that they support. So if you have Cisco, you have you have Cisco guys, you have a Cisco team, right? If you have Avaya, right, they're typically heavily certified, like Avaya guys who've learned how to manipulate the system and stuff like that. And I'm not picking on those two. There's other companies, other software that and hardware that functions like that. So when you're talking change management, right, you're talking, you got the contact center person who's pie in the sky. I want this new thing. It's going to make life great. You're teaching them how to sell into the finance team and how to tell them to the C level. But you got a whole group over here that has mastered this technology that they've been using for the last 2 decades. And quite frankly, in a lot of instances, the very pride in their job comes from the knowledge they have about how to make that system work, right? And now you're saying you want a new system, right? So help my operational leaders through that interaction, and even if there's some ways that you can actually help them, you can share those as well.
Yeah, this is a good call out, and I've got parallels that I might go down, but in sparing of time. But IT and customer service, they have a strange history past, and you said it just almost perfectly. Um, Contact center operations leaders, their primary focus is delivering the best customer service, leading highly functional teams. It has to do a lot with really tribal knowledge. It's the understanding of how to have EQ and IQ, understanding what the customer needs, having empathy, compassion, but then also operationally, you can't just have your team not be productive and not make sure that you're not hitting budget goals. You can't just have pie in the sky ideas of how to service your customers without some tangible metrics and numbers. And really, technology helps with that. The tools that we call, and there's lots of terms for them, but we'll just say contact center as a service tools. These tools help rein that in, help normalize, stabilize things, help the contact center operations professional measure success. Did we answer enough calls in the right enough time? Did we have good customer satisfaction scores? Do we have good NPS? Are people calling us back because we didn't resolve conversations in the first go round, in the first time? And I will say 10, 20 years ago, when we had on-premise tools, like an Avaya, Cisco, all of the other ones, PBXs, we had to lean as customer service operations folks, we had to lean on the IT professionals because
Mhm.
internally our teams and ourselves as leaders, we didn't have the hands-on keyboard experience of how to code, program, debug these kind of complex tools and frameworks. And then as we progressed to more cloud-based tools that are click to operate. I call them the pizza in a box. It's the Domino's experience. It's instead
Yes.
of having to make a pizza from scratch, you just call Domino's and it shows up to your door.
Right.
That technology is today for the contact center. It's clicking buttons and enabling, and you might little tiny bit of code maybe, but you don't really need to be a IT specialist to program, manage, and administrate these tools. So now that we've come to that crossroads and we're actually beyond that, we're to the point where some customer service operations organizations don't even need IT. I mean, of course, they need the IT's blessing, they need support integrating tools together and maybe configuring of phone numbers that are owned by IT. But in reality, the operations person can really own and maintain it. And that what used to live in IT from an administrative standpoint can possibly live in the contact center operations team with really light IT specialists. And you touched on something that's really important. I want to call it out too. And sometimes we support these change management projects for our customers, and we're talking to the IT team, and half the time we go through demos, they're like, "Wait, you're gonna replace my job? Like you're literally making my job easier, and allowing another department to be able to manage and maintain it." So it's a very interesting world that we live in, but I think working closely with IT is extremely important for change management.
I think you hit on a great point is the fact that you do have experience though having those conversations and taking companies through change management. But often I think about, when I was even as a contact center leader, even if I knew I wanted additional technology, hell, even if I knew what technology I wanted, right? I still didn't always know how to get from where I was to where I wanted to be. What advice could you share, or how could you even help somebody, in that situation?
Yep. Yeah, I always love and this is more of a team-based methodology, but the rule of thumb is always to be don't be the smartest person in the room.
Mhm.
And the way that you do that is by not giving answers, but by asking questions. So if you think of like a therapist, or if you think all they're doing is just listening and asking more questions, they're drilling into a topic. And I think that's how I usually apply that to my teams. And when they're going through some sort of change, and that can be a technology change, it could be a people or leadership change, it could be a process change. Really, the person who should be championing this and driving this should be pulling the right people into the room, people who are arguably smarter than them in their respective areas,
Mhm.
and just posing a problem and then listening and then asking questions.
Right.
Things like um, our agent attrition is really high. We want to solve for that. How can we make that better? And then just listening to how people respond to that and asking questions until
Mhm.
you get to a point where everyone in the room feels like they have buy-in because they're the subject matter expert answering the questions, but then also they come to, it's like Inception. They came to their own conclusion. Oh,
Yeah.
we have to make a change. Like if we don't make a change, then this group of people, this team, we're not going to succeed. So I don't think we do this in corporate America enough. Pull people into a room, and it's, right now we pull people into a room, and it's either one of two things. It could have been an email. It's like, okay, fine. We pull in the room and you're just
Right.
reading
We don't like those.
or the other thing is you pull them into a room and the decision's already been made and you're just telling them what the decision was. People hate that. There's no
That's a
buy-in.
that's a loss in change management, by the way. For those of you out there watching, if you go through and you can even make the right decision. I'm not challenging your decision, but if you go through and make the decision, and then you bring in the stakeholders or the users and simply tell them what you've done, that's a fail. That's a loss.
Yep.
Because you're gonna lose days, weeks, months to their morale and their attitudes before you get any type of productivity from the new product.
Oh, absolutely. And the methodology of the propose the problem and ask the questions,
Mm-hmm.
you as the person posing the problem, you have to fill in the blank conversation where there's no one talking,
Yeah.
the blank space, but you also have to come with some options. You can't just say, because if you come in there and you say, hey, our agent attrition is really high, we got to fix this, and you're not participating and everyone else is giving you answers, then you don't execute on any of those answers,
Yeah.
then you lose buy-in not only there, but you lose buy-in in the future too. So you
Yeah.
have to listen, you have to close the loop. You have to actually make some changes towards whatever the solution is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that latter scenario that you laid out can cause a leader to lose credibility for a while,
Yeah.
with future things that may come up. All right, I wanna wrap this. There's two things I want to do. One, I'm gonna put you on the spot, so I hope it's nearby. If it's not, I'll find mine. But do you have a copy of the book near you?
I do, yeah.
All right. Let's cover that. Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
Um, enable better service. All right, give me the elevator pitch real quick. What's in the book and who should be reading it?
I say it's the world's heaviest business card, because it's really all it is. I I wrote a very short 16 chapters, 300-ish pages. The most of value, it's very whimsical, fun. The
Mhm,
chapters are a little bit business heavy. We talk about contact center there all the time, but
mhm.
they're whimsical. I talk about the dodo bird. I talk about hockey players. Like
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah.
The best thing in the book is actually a section that I didn't even write. Um, it's the appendix, and in the
Okay.
appendix, it has every term for the contact center. So what's
Oh,
ACW,
wow.
what's IVR, what's so if anything, if you get a copy of my book, literally go to the appendix on the back and just start reading terms. And that's if you're a new and upcoming leader in the contact center, or if you're a frontline team member and you just want to know what these terms mean, even though you don't may not use them in your day to day, it's a good dictionary for that. And then the reason why it's called Enable Better Service is I'm very tech forward. I thought in my brain, what if there was an ability, if I can go to the contact center leaders of the world and then just give them a technology where they can just check a box and solve problems like lower agent attrition and increase CSAT. And it was just a checkbox, and then you just check those boxes off and hit submit, and then it was solved.
Mhm.
So that's why I called it Enable Better Service, because we're trying to check the boxes for them. And each chapter, in my mind, is a topic in which hopefully they can glean some information and improve a certain area of their contact center business.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. I love that. All right, I need one more thing from you, as the expert, and this is directly for our audience, for anyone listening. And this can be what bit of advice you wish that, heck, it can be. I mean, you've been in their seat, so what bit of advice do you wish you knew back when you were leading contact centers? Or it could be about anything we've talked about so far, or something completely off the grid that you just want to share to help our audience out. What are you leaving them with?
Yep. Mentor, mentee. It's all about leadership, and even the best leaders out there have mentors. Um, Try to find someone who maybe they're above you status wise, maybe
Mhm.
they're a peer, maybe they're in a different department, but find a mentor. And then at the same time, have a mentee, have someone who you're helping mentor. And you create this interesting triangle of yourself, a mentor, and a mentee, and it's kind of it goes in circles. So you learn from your mentor, you give it to your mentee. Sometimes you learn from your mentee because they ask you questions, and then you bring that all the way up. Um, it's really important to have that. leadership is extremely important as well. So as you're progressing through wherever you are in your career, think about leadership day in and day out. How can you help others around you on your team? How can you influence them to do better, to change? And then there's one little tidbit that, and I learned this at my first organization. Um, People come to work with good intentions. Always keep that in
Yes.
the back of your mind, because sometimes something in business will change and it'll affect you or it'll affect your team in a negative way. You have to always remember that people come to work, whether they're on your team or not, or maybe it's a technology supplier you just purchased. Everyone has their best intentions. No one's trying to backstab you. No one's trying to
Right.
steal things from you. Hopefully, but the
Right.
majority of people
In
have
most
good
cases, right.
intentions.
No, right. I get it.
Yeah. So it's, as long as you know that, you can usually work with them, even if something went really, really wrong or business ticking happened. Approach them and try to understand what their intention was. And
Yeah.
99 out of 100 times, it's good intentions. So that's what I always think about. It's leadership, but then also everyone around you comes to work with good intentions. No one wakes up and says like, you know what, I'm just gonna mess everything up.
I'm gonna go be a screw up today. Right. That's not
If
that's not
that was the
happening.
case, they just wouldn't show up to work. They
Yeah,
would stay.
right. Exactly right. They would just stay home.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate that. I especially as someone who has benefited from having good mentors along the way. I love that mentor mentee. Um, it creates accountability. I feel, and it's a way of growing and helping others around you. So I appreciate that. For those of you, you saw the name of the book. The book's available. We'll have that in the subject in the body below. We also have the ways to contact Aarde and ClarityCX should you want to follow up with them. Aarde, I appreciate your time, man. Yeah, always a good conversation with you. And I can tell you right now, just because you have so much history and so much we want to cover, I'm probably going to have you back again so my audience can look forward to that. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you to you guys for joining us. Remember, check the body, subscribe so that you're aware. We have several more upcoming episodes with more experts like Aarde taking on real subjects to help you be better. So thanks again, sir.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks.